How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Not so bad. It's quite early on our side, but nice to meet you. Huh?
Thank you very much for coming to my show in this time.
hmm Welcome. Huh? Thanks for the
So
invite.
I can see you're doing a lot of work. I thought to tell about your work to my audience.
Sure. Well, I'm a senior developer advocate at AWS. I'm focused on the Iberia region, which means Spain and Portugal. And part of our job is try to get our community and our developers to shine. So we must ensure you guys have the right resources and the right things so you can develop and build cool stuff in our platform.
So you are from?
I'm from Spain. I'm based in Madrid. I've been at AWS now a few months, but I come from a previous builder world, building things at Oracle, Huawei. So I've been quite a bit around in the IT industry.
So how much experience you have in IT?
Well, I guess more than 20 years. I started early in 2000 working. So I've been in almost a lot of positions from network engineer. I come from infrastructure. I was a telecom engineer. And I usually say that uh, I've been growing by failure. No, so every time I messed things up and I had to learn something new, that has been like the driver that has been changing a bit of my work and my scope over the last few years.
So what technologies you have learned in this 20 years?
Wow, man. If we start from networks, I remember ATM, migrating things to MPLS. I've been even testing X25 networks, which is really, really old. Many of the people listening to your channel might not even know what we are talking about. So, yeah, CBR circuits for audio. Uh, and then I had the opportunity to start when all this cloud thing came live. So back in 2010, I was part of the cloud team at Computer Science Corporation. So we started deploying cloud regions all over EMEA, and we found ourselves battling against AWS in the Magic Quadrant. We were by 2013, I think, the leaders on the infrastructure section. So I've been evolving from purely networks up to virtualization, storage, compute, and all the things that comes now wrap as what we call cloud computing.
So what is your role? What is your responsibility as a senior developer advocate?
Well, we aim to build cool stuff that can excite you. We try to motivate people that wants to use our platform by creating demos and things that you might find interesting, that we try to solve problems that people has out there. So it's a bit of, and also how we engage with you more, no? We build programs on how we can increase your know-how in my platform. So that's a bit of the day-to-day job, no? My kid says that I get paid for playing. So we're always playing with IoT devices, robots, and stuff connected to the cloud. So it's a fun work.
And what you like in doing this?
That I do what I like. Uh, I've been fortunate enough that I've been always doing what I think is the right thing for the company and for the people I work with. And when you like what you do, you don't even bother on, you don't even mind of taking hours just doing and building things, right?
And can you give some examples that you do?
Well, a few years ago, a couple of years ago, we found that some companies had some problems with their data center operations. Uh, Usually, the operations is done by external companies. You outsource the maintenance of some of the equipment that you have there. And we found that some CISO, some security officers in these large companies were like, I don't want people to get all the know-how of my data center. So we create a solution using augmented reality that we were locating people. When you come into the data center, we will tell you where you need to operate, so you don't have any information of the facilities. And we drive and navigate using drones, or, well, you might have seen this Boston Dynamics, the Spot robot. It will take you to the rack where you need to operate, and it will provide all the information that you require. It's a way of removing the know-how from a security perspective, so nobody else knows what you have in your data center. And it was a fun project. It started like a proof of concept. It worked really well. We broke few drones in the data center, testing on how to navigate and position the drone. Because at the end, when you see a data center, all the aisles and the rows are the same. So you need to put elements inside the data center so the drone can recognize and know in which area is right now flying over. And it took some time to to get it in the right spot. So these kind of things.
So you work more on infrastructure side or development side?
I come from infrastructure. I built also, before joining all these companies, my own startup, where we found also a problem from companies that they were underutilizing their infrastructure. And we found that also a lot of developers, when you have the server in the data center, some developers spin up their environments to test, and they have like 1,000 environments all over the data center without control. And so we found that doing the right analysis of the infrastructure and monitoring what all the events and correlating all those things together and adjusting that to business KPIs was a cool way for CIOs to understand how much money they were wasting because of not optimizing their infrastructure. So we developed a monitoring framework using open source tools, Elastic, and all the suite around that, to build this kind of monitoring thing that we could aim to minimize and optimize infrastructure there.
Is it important for you in your role to know how development is done?
Oh, for sure. Because at the end, what you ensure is that you provide the right infrastructure for people to build on top their applications. And you need to build, for example, your pipelines, your CI/CD, how you put all the workflow and the orchestration in place to really speed up the development of new apps or services. So we are like the guys ensuring that all that is set the right way for developers to really make it easy to just focus on what you guys need to do, that it's a code, and build your applications on top.
So what is typical, what is tough on doing AWS infrastructure?
What is tough? I guess that, well, it's not tough. The thing is that you have so many services to choose over that you really need to have a clear view of what you want to use. Mostly you see like we have like 200 services available, but when you look down, probably you will just need 15, 20 services to really do your work. And then you can experiment with other services. When I started on this job, you had EC2, S3. I'm pushing more on the Graviton side, which I think is more the sustainable architectures that will lead the way we build applications in the future. But you start tackling which service, trying to learn, diving and seeing if it fits on what you guys want to build. So it's a bit of being curious and learning every day a new service.
So your responsibility, I mean, your job is to help developers understand how things work.
Yeah, we got many people, and I used to mentor people from the community. They come and say, gee, I'm trying to build this kind of application, or I want to build this service. So we sit together, we brainstorm. This is how I think would fit better going down this path, using CloudFormation to automatically provision things, use this kind of managed service so you avoid of deploying and keeping. It's like when you build CI/CD pipelines with Jenkins, no? That if I have 100 microservices, I probably have 100 plugins there that I need to keep and maintain. I always say, why you pay someone to maintain a plugin when I would like to pay someone for building a service rather than the tool that will enable you build those things, no? So Our job is to be a bit of advisors for people that is trying to build things there, help them on the side, review. For example, I get people that sends over their blogs. I want to talk about this technology. We go over and okay, here is a misconception, or hey, here is a report that you would like to look at, or what other people has been doing, just to set the right scope so you have a 360 view of the whole things, no? Because I guess that's one of the problems we used to have when we build things, that you are focused on your area and you sometimes lose the track of what's happening around. So if we are able to provide you the whole picture, you can decide what's the best option to build something.
So being in technology for 20 plus years, how this experience working in IT and understanding technology services and
Mhm.
products, how that affected you personally as a person, in your personality, in your behavior, in your thinking process?
Well, I guess it's a continuous learning curve. So if you become the subject matter expert of something, probably in 2 years you're not anymore the subject matter, because technology is moving really, really fast. So it's a world that you need to keep out of your comfort zone. So you keep diving on new things, being curious. Now we have all these things around artificial intelligence, chat GPT, generative AI. I think those kind of things are really good to implement in the infrastructure when we apply machine learning and AI for network bandwidth, throughput, scaling, and things like that. How it affects personally, my wife says that my hobby is my job. So I guess that it comes with your DNA, no? Probably if you like to do something else, I will always push and do what you really want to do. Uh, and I guess with the kids, for example, my wife says I'm turning my kids into IT monsters because I show them how to program, how to run things on Roblox, Minecraft, how they can build their own worlds and their own stuff. But I think it's a tool. At the end, it's a technology. It's a tool of trying to live a better world than what we had previously and try to make something for good. That's the way I see it.
And what is that mindset or those qualities that you have that helped you to adapt to the new things that are happening in the technology industry?
For qualities, I think it's perseverance. No, I think that uh, you will fail many, many, many times. If you find someone that says, I've been successful in my career without failing, they are totally lying. Uh, Failure is part of the process of learning, and you shouldn't have any kind of ego. It's guys, what you are doing, it needs to be cross different industry, line of business, teams. You need to be really open to share without worrying that someone can take your idea, get back to the manager and say, "Oh, I did it." It's like shit. No, it came from a brainstorming and something that we work together. No, you will find those kind of things, but humility is one of the things that hey, you need to be humble, but you need to be hungry of learning new things and new stuff. And I always say that you can be very knowledgeable, you can be a great guy there, but if you don't have patience for what you do, that will not be exponential. When you have patience and you have the knowledge and the willing to learn, that's like a rocket. People really becomes awesome stars in the industry.
And what is the biggest failure that you experienced and how you managed it?
Well, I have many. I even have a session where I talk about how being success by failing. I remember when I started back in the years in a network operator, Telefonica is one of the largest one. Uh, I had like 20 different PuTTY sessions open, the terminal on SSH connections, and I messed it up. I jumped to the wrong interface and I unlocked a whole site for 3 days. And the problem was that that was connected to in the police department on the jail. They were waiting to receive a fax to see what happened with someone that they caught doing something wrong, no? And if they didn't receive that fax, they had to pull this guy out free. Unfortunately, it took more than the 48 hours. It took us more than 72 hours to recover the site. So this guy went out of jail, and it was like, shit, that's a big failure on my side. But rather than you feel bad, at least the next 2 days, it's like, guys, how I did this, how I messed up this whole thing. But then you find it's like, okay, you cannot go down the same error twice. So you need to learn. And there's where I learned how to do scripting. And then with the years, for example, when I was in the cloud, we were deploying a bank account and I messed up the environments. I had, again, many windows open and I had a script that removed the whole configuration, all the resources from the account. And I did it in production. And it was like, whoa, I think it took us like 5 hours to recover the whole thing. It was not a big thing, but customer was like, what the heck happened? And I had to go with a root cause analysis that, hey, I'm a dummy guy. I mess it up. Here is the timestamp, everything clear on what happened, countermeasures, how we're going to ensure this is not going to happen. Let's automate the whole thing. That's where I learned how to automate and orchestrate and build pipelines and stuff like that. But even building pipelines, there was a way of updating the dependency and the library package of an application. And we went with a latest version that didn't went over all the checks, and suddenly it disrupted the whole application because there were problems between versions on the multiple services. So there's continuous things that it's like, wow. So I guess that failing is part of the job. It's how you take it or how you ensure that you don't get twice on the same rock is what makes a good engineer from someone that just repeats the same thing, right?
And is there any particular way or style that that helps anybody to reduce the mistakes that they are doing?
Well, I guess that picking projects that nobody wants to pick, uh, that's many people tells me, no, when I was designing network infrastructure for large data centers, I used to travel to countries that nobody wanted to go because it was danger or it was in the middle of nowhere. And you find yourself in situations that sounds like a nightmare. But just being able to resolve those kind of things makes you learn. You get the lessons learned of the whole thing. So I guess it's just about taking projects and projects and doing stuff and trying to always do it the best way you can do. There will always be failures or things that didn't work as expected. You need to understand why it didn't work and how you're going to remediate that or to make sure that this will never happen again.
You worked more on infrastructure side. You know how things work in the
Mhm.
hardware side. So, have you experienced natural calamities, natural disasters, and how you handled it?
Well, yeah, I think I told this in a couple of podcasts. It was back 2008, and there was a submarine cable cut in Alexandria in Egypt that cut the whole north of Africa. The funny thing is I was on holidays, and well, my previous manager, he sent me to change some core devices in a customer in Spain. I had to travel even being on holidays, and I found myself flying to Krakow, to Poland, to do something else to another customer. My wife was at home on holidays waiting for his husband to come back. And I remember reaching back home and getting the call from my manager, and I was like, oh, he will ask how it went in Krakow when he didn't even tell me I was flying to Krakow. And he came and said, oh, we have a problem with North Africa. All the north has been disrupted because of a submarine cable. We have some customers that, and at those days I used to have a big rack at my house full of devices. So I had to pick one of my routers. It had a satellite network card. I put it under my arms. I rent a car. I cross on ferry from Spain to north of Africa. And we found that the point of presence of Maroc Telecom, that was the largest operator, they only had one. So everything was disrupted. And we find ourselves troubleshooting customers, getting to what they call the free zone. That is an area that I think it's free zone because they don't pay taxes there, but it's really controlled by militaries. The equipment you pull in and you get out. So we had to hide this router in the car between the seats so they couldn't find it. And I spent like 15 hours to ensure that this customer was getting out via satellite. It was not very production ready in the sense that at least they could communicate to the external world, no? And those kind of things is what you face.
And in how many countries you worked?
My kids have the counts. They have a map where they put little flags and stuff. And I think the last count was like 35 countries, huh?
So is it same working in in
No,
35 countries?
no, same problem is resolved in different ways based in the country. And it's all about culture. If you look on Europe, Mediterranean people, Greece, Italy, and Spain, they have the same behavior, and you can expect the way it works is different from how you work with Germany or with Nordic countries, but it also happens the same when you go to Africa. People in South Africa is not the same. They work like in Nigeria, for example, or even in China. I always put because I had a lot of experience working in China for a previous company, that we usually try to set up the whole end-to-end view of what we are going to find when we build a project, no? We try to anticipate the problems that we can encounter when we are building things. And for example, in China, because of the culture, they think of very long term, which is awesome. They know that in 30 years we will be there and we will be number one. And it's amazing how they target and they move forward. But the way they resolve problems is like, I hit a problem, I resolve that problem, and I will hit the next problem, I will go and resolve. Rather than thinking of all the many problems that you will find and trying to target everything at once, they just go step by step, no? It's a different approach, also different mentality there. And I think that's what makes you also, it's part of who we are. Exchanging with people from many countries, cultures, and things gets you an open mind on how the world really rules, no? Because you've got your perception, but my perception might not be the same as yours because we live different things or we analyze things in a different way. So,
So how we as a human beings are able to communicate and manage this communication system, putting data centers in completely different parts of the world which have different climatic conditions, environmental conditions, different cultural things, having different languages speaking, how we are able to maintain this global infrastructure?
well, that's a very, very good question. It's challenging. It's not easy to have, for example, 9 data centers spread over the world. As you mentioned, condition. If you go to Singapore, I think this week there were like 45 Celsius degrees. It's really humidity in the area. So the conditions of how you build your infrastructure, you need to consider several factors that you might not have if you go to Finland or Sweden, right? Because of the temperature and things. Even though I recall a couple of years ago in UK, which because of the temperature that is really not high in summer and rest of the year, there were a couple of big cloud providers that had outage inside the data center because of the high temperature there. Then the other thing is the people that it works there. At the end, you need a distributed team. I always say that I like to build virtual teams. So you are in India, I have people in Australia, China. You need to have everybody connected. The problem is the time zones, no? I spent like 2 years working from 6, 7 a.m., starting with Australia and Japan and China, and ending up in my day, follow the sun, like 2 a.m., speaking with LATAM, with United States. It's really tough. So you really need to set up the workflow on how you guys will operate, but also not being able that you send me a message and it takes me 24 hours to reply because that doesn't work. So you need to have a very clear windows on where we can meet each other, at least for 30 minutes or 1 hour a day, where we can sync up and look on the next steps on the infrastructure.
And how many communication devices or physical things that we are using in order to communicate globally? Because you worked on infrastructure side for a long
Mhm.
time, not only one country, you saw in different countries what they are using in order to communicate and share the information from one place to other place.
Well, at the end, people sees that I have data center or my infrastructure, I have this last mile when the carrier and the operator of the country gives me access. So I might have my racks with my network switches and my routers that connects to the service provider. From there, you can think that this service provider has thousands of devices on their MPLS networks. They have the provider edge equipment and all these things. Usually, you don't even know how many jumps around in the network. And it's amazing when you just check latencies. No, I would say people is like, oh, I do this ping. Well, that's not reliable. It's fun to have ping, but it can get lost when you have like 50 jumps just to get to the core destination. Even though I can tell you, this is funny stories. I remember big carriers coming to us and say, shit, we have a big problem because we have this tool that measures latency and we have a strict SLA. So we are spending a lot of money paying back customers because the latency always shows that it's higher than what we put in the contract. And when we start analyzing was that their core MPLS network was so messed up that they were getting that, and the solution was, oh, you need to, rather than centralize this application, you need to decentralize and pull it closer to the customer. So we build in little technical rooms that they used to have this large operator, the application really close to the customer. So when you were testing the latency, it was under SLAs. So now you don't have to pay, but it was a problem on how they build the infrastructure. And at the end, think, once you build something, there's new technology coming. How I can introduce this new technology in my infrastructure without disrupting the service. So it's not an easy thing. And as technology evolves, you will see more and more that we need to adapt. I like to say that we should build things like plug and play. There's something new, just disconnect, plug, and it should work. But that's not the common use case. And you always find that you end up with an spaghetti incident. No, many cables, things that work, this whole thing is coming there. You lose the know-how because someone that was operating your infrastructure for X years now left the company or got retired, and there has not been any transfer of that knowledge. You find many things there. I think it would be fun to see some books around, some comics around infrastructure nightmares of the multiple things you can find when you are deploying or trying to operate and maintain infrastructure.
And you are the evidence for the evolution of the technology and advancement.
Sorry?
You are the evidence for the
Oh,
evolution
well,
of the technology advancement.
I've been in many, I've seen technology grow. I feel you start feeling old when you see your kids playing on PlayStation 5 with some games that is like, shit, I came with arcade games. I was one of the guys that started with Pong. That was just two bars and a little ball across the screen. So it's amazing when you look back that internet has been there over the last 30 years and how much we've already achieved from a technology perspective. And it's just the beginning. I heard last week or 2 weeks ago, Bill Gates was talking about this is the second biggest technology disruption that he has lived on his own. First one was the graphical user interface that he put inside Windows, and now was artificial intelligence, which is going to disrupt. There are so many ways, and people get scared about all this new technology that is going to kill my job or not. Their jobs are going to disappear. We know that, but there are a lot of jobs that we cannot even think of that will appear or will need to be created just to manage. So I always say that use technology as a tool to evolve and continue doing things that you like. Huh?
So, what do you say about these global influencers and global technology experts or leaders, visionaries who are trying to solve problems of global infrastructure and thinking about global connectivity?
Well, I think that you need to pick the best of each one. So I remember in virtualization and working, you had Martin Casado and all these guys that were really awesome people, very knowledgeable and amazing guys. Huh? Pick the best of everybody and try to build your own puzzle. I like to hear your views, for example, but I always listen to people that might think different from you. I like to have the whole picture so I can go and take the decision based on what's happening there, no, and plan based on that thing. If you just trust in a single guy and say, oh, whatever Bill says or whatever Steve Jobs was saying in the old days, I will take it as a mantra. No, everybody gets wrong at some point. We all make mistakes in life, no? Just hear and think that, oh, that that makes sense. And the way they're approaching this, I think that's the right thing. And you go and test it and you work on that. That's what I would tell people, no? You should have people you follow that you think are cool guys because there's a lot of rising stars out there also. But take your own path. Don't try to be someone else. Huh?
So these 200 services are using different hardware resources.
Mm-hmm.
So how humans are thinking about the hardware thing when it comes to solve the software problems?
Well, I guess things that infrastructure should be transparent for software developers. I shouldn't care if this is running in this kind of hardware stack or is distributed this way. You need to know that when you build your application because it's going to be distributed, right? But we need to really ensure that we make things transparent for people. I shouldn't be worried about how I'm provisioning network and storage. I just need to have this up and running so I can jump with my VS Code and start coding and building my application. And it happens, you need to abstract. I always try to say how you build that overlay where you remove the complexity for people trying to build something. Why should I know if I'm a software developer what I should take care of, how I provision my VPC, how I provision my security rules, how I provision all these things? I should have a set of requirements, and that's something that should be done automatically for me. No?
But most of the software engineers or software developers don't really go into infrastructure side and how infrastructure is managed for these applications. How
Uh,
important for them to know which hardware or which hardware resource is used for that application?
I think it's important to understand the underlying infrastructure. Uh, the way you use your CPUs, your memory, because I've seen it's not a common rule of thumb, but we see a lot of people that comes and deploys the first EC2 instance and they build the application, and that's not maybe optimized for what you're looking for, no? Maybe your application requires a smaller shape. While you go with these shapes and you're wasting resources, which is going to become more expensive than trying to optimize. There's a session, I think, from one of my peers that it comes based on the requirements from your manager and you are the software developers, you go and build the application and then it shows how underutilized is the whole infrastructure you're using to build that app. And during the session, he comes and starts optimizing. It's like, oh, because of this shape, you have this network bandwidth. You don't need so much bandwidth. We can go with a smaller shape. You're doing a consumption of 20% of the CPU, but when you get a peak of traffic and you get overloaded, it just comes up to 60. Usually when you get in trouble is when you get into 85% of the CPU is when you need to start thinking that shit, I should start scaling horizontally or vertical, depends on the type of application, if it's monolithic or if it's on microservices. But those kind of tips and tricks are the things that you really need to have in mind when you build things. Huh? Because at the end, it has a direct impact in your cost.
So yeah, that's my question. How to manage the cost when it comes to connecting a particular software with a hardware?
Mm-hmm.
What a developer need to put in his mind when he's doing because there are so many resources available in AWS.
Uh-huh.
Not many people know which service used for which purpose and how
Oh,
they
yeah.
can reduce the cost.
Well, you have optimizers, cost optimizers, and you can set alarms. So when it triggers a threshold, you can get notified on those things. You need to plan in advance a little bit when you design the whole thing, uh, what kind of applications you are going to run. It's totally different when you have your on-prem data center, where I just go and buy servers. Problem is that it takes just to get the PO, it takes weeks to get the order in place. It takes months to get everything installed. Once everything is cable and rack, now I need to set up the operating system and start building on top. So you can go easily to 4 to 6 months of getting something ready. The cool thing of the cloud is that in minutes, they already have everything ready. Click, deploy, and scale. But you need to set the guidelines of how you want to run this application. And for that, cloud providers usually give a lot of tools to ensure that you can stay safe on the things that you can deploy or not there.
And you also help a lot of developers through the community. What are the core things that you teach them?
Wow, that's a good question. I think I share my crazy life and the crazy things we do, trying to inspire people. But usually they come with problems. No, it's like, I'm facing this issue, how we can solve it. Whiteboarding is the solution here. We do a lot of whiteboarding with people to understand how they build the application, how things are set up, how the future looks like of that application in the next 6, 12 months, if you're going to need upgrades, if you come and you start using, uh, one of the funny things we usually find is you start building your applications, but you need your security team, network, storage guys and stuff to set up the whole infrastructure for you. And from a security perspective, it takes time to ensure that everything is as the company policies that is required to be secure. But then the developer comes and pulls from a public repository just to update the application. It's like, shit, you just broke all the security rules in a single shot. So the way you trade off things, we try to make people aware of those kind of things. It's like, hey, it's not the same developing on your own in your laptop or going to the cloud and having your own account than when you get into a more enterprise level that you need to follow the rules, set the guidelines. These are the kind of things that you may be facing. For example, the speed required from a developer sometimes crash with the speed of the corporate architecture team. It takes more time to validate code that you want to put outside, that you want to share with other people. It can take months to be there. And the developer wants to have things in minutes, hours probably, right? So we try to give advice on many things, not just from the architecture, infrastructure, software development. It's also about the culture that you might find. There's a lot of people that has grown in this new era of cloud and has been cloud native since day one. And we found now that some get some problems when they move into the IT world that has been there for 40 years, that they operate in a different way. I've seen both sides of the coin. I've seen companies that has been really IT traditionally, and you had to teach them how to be more cloud native, where speed matters, but also the way around. No, people that speed is your day-to-day thing and how we pull things out, but there are several processes from an IT perspective that will slow down how you progress and how you deploy things.
Do you still struggle today to solve any problem having 20 years of experience in technology?
Always, every day. The fun thing is that sometimes the problems that come, you already live it in your previous life, no? So now you know how to really solve it in an easier way. But there are others that comes that it's like, wow, how we can achieve this. And I always say, when you come and speak with someone and they tell you your problems, there are two things that can happen. That problem turns into an opportunity because nobody thought about the use of the service in that way that you're planning to do it, or it's a way to notify your product teams and your people that, hey, we are struggling in this area, we need to prioritize because customers are using the service this way. So it's always a benefit for you on listening problems. I know people that hates listening problems because they think that, oh, I have enough in my day to day to keep listening from other people. But I think that we need to listen to our audience, our customers, partners, and people that is learning our technology to ensure how they are using and what are the problems facing. As I said, the way you resolve something depends on your education, how you grew up, where you grew up, the cultural. It's a lot of factors that it's out of scope when you design something that you will find use cases that you never thought of.
And what practice or what exercise you do in order to have this problem solving ability from 20 years?
Well, you have your backlog. You have a list of things that you go in. It's always how you prioritize. It's how much effort there's. Usually, we recommend people to build charts in the way of X and Y axis on how much effort you need to resolve this problem and what's the impact of resolving that. If I'm going to spend 6 months developing something to fix this problem that will have little impact, is it worth to do it? Probably not. But probably I find things that are less time consumption on developing something, but has a bigger reachability. That's the ones you need to go and pick it, no? And you can plan in short, mid, and long term. So you try to always have the quick wins, things that can really fix a imminent problem that you might have, but also think on how that service can evolve and how you can provide better features, new capabilities, and things like that.
And how you are able to solve your problems in your beginning days of your technical journey?
Complaining to my wife. No, jokes aside, uh, well, it depends. We have a list of, here the thing is that usually we work at 120%. So sometimes there's no time to to really dive in many things, and we need to pull and ask help for many people. It's not a bad thing going and ask help for people. I think you need to use this method a lot, because there's some people that comes back to you and say, "Gee, I have this problem. Have you seen this before?" And we start troubleshooting and doing things. But usually, it's trying. You have this the stay calm. I always push that. Getting nervous will not take you anywhere. And things are temporary. Maybe you are in a very bad situation today because you have a severity 1 outage and has a direct impact. Stay calm. Think and analyze what's the problem. Bring the right people into the room to work all together there. If it's something that is not related to customer incidents that are happening there on day-to-day operations, that it's more on developing things, you can plan according. You can take more time. But when it's an outage, severity 1, time really matters. And you need the right tools uh, to be able to bring a lot of people here. And here I'm going to do a break because we recently found a startup that is doing really awesome stuff. It's called Fiverplane. It's a Deutsche company. And Micha is the CEO. He built what I found is the first collaborative DevOps tool. So rather than, I remember when we used to resolve incidents, I jump into the thing, I check my part. Here is the packet coming, here is the packet going out. Now the problem is yours because it's in your side, no? And rather than making it sequential, that one is checking, now with this kind of tools, you can bring a lot of people together. You can query your monitoring platforms in real time, and you can have it in a single notebook where everybody's looking, people is debugging, others are troubleshooting. You can set the to-do list. You can integrate with Slack, PagerDuty. Suddenly you find it opens a new world of how you can solve things out there. And I found that that's like the holy grail. I think was the thing that was missing in the infrastructure side. And getting this kind of tool makes our life really, really easy. Sorry for the short break, but I found this recently and was like, this thing is really amazing.
Great. And you communicated with different country people. You
Hmm.
have exchanged words with different experts from different parts of the world. So you most of the time your job is to communicate with machines which have no life, the devices.
Yeah, machine usually give less problems than people, no?
Yeah, that's my question. That's my question. So
Yes.
communicating the communication between humans, communication
Hmm.
between human and computer. You know both. Which one is easy for you?
Well, it's much easier talking to machines, no? Because you just reboot them and things are done. You can fix your problem. But the thing here is that you need to communicate with people. I think empathy is a key feature that people needs to have. Everybody has their own problems. Everybody has their own day-to-day stuff and things. And usually you jump and you might have a problem, but you don't understand what the other guy is suffering or what he's going through, no? We all have our private lives and stuff like that. I think people needs to be more empathic on how you treat other people. I've seen not so good situations when suddenly a big manager in a customer is shouting to their own people. It's like, I understand the pressure. We all are under pressure, but I think that at the end of the day, there's still a human being there, right? So uh, empathy is the key thing on all this, on how you exchange and you communicate.
The technology age is 40 years,
Hmm.
and 20 years you are in it.
Hmm. Oh yeah,
And
don't tell that because now I feel really old. Huh?
so, in last few years, or in your complete journey, and
Hmm.
in technology evolution or technology advancement of 40 years, so in which time of, or in which period of, in which period the technology
Hmm.
advanced more?
Well, I guess in 2000 was when we got the dot-com bubble that exploded, that everything was a hype and suddenly the whole industry went down and they had to reinvent and move there. I think that was one of the biggest issues we saw. Even I remember that's when I started working in the industry and they were paying really, really low salaries because everything was down. And I think AI, this era is the one that we're going to see that is going to be a huge disruption. And there's something that a lot of people ask, no, it's like, what's the next step in technology? And they talk just about technology, and say, wait, with all this AI coming, you need more on human arts. You need more on philosophy. You need more on how to really treat. It looks like a joke, but you need more on that area to ensure that we don't create or we don't get into a world of AI that is not empathic with our society. I'm not sure if you've seen recently, there was a lady that they use a Furby, that it's this little puppet that was so cool and from a few years ago. And she introduced ChatGPT on the robot. And when she asked the robot about their plans, the robot starts talking about domination plans. So it's a bit scary. It's like, shit. And this funny and cool little robot is telling about how they're going to dominate our society and put everybody under. It can be scary. And you see a lot of movies of things happening. So I really think we need to set the right foundation. And that comes around ethics, humanity, and stuff like that to ensure that whatever we evolve is evolving in the right direction. So we
You
will need
mentioned,
both things, tech people and human arts, philosophy, and all these careers also in place.
because you mentioned both. You said empathy when you're talking
Hmm.
with human beings, and when you're talking with computers, you're more logical. So, but human beings, you have to be emotionally, you have to be very sensible when it comes to emotions, and be
Hmm.
very respectful, because different cultures are there, different
Hmm.
language speaking people in the world are there. So, what do you say to AI experts in order to put these human qualities that will definitely help AI to be in control of human, and also what decision making power does AI needs to have?
They need to involve everybody. If you see where AI comes from it comes from the early 60s. So it has been an evolution. AI is not something that came just this year, but when you see where it's coming from universities like Stanford, Cambridge in UK and stuff like that. Many big universities where the population was mainly white, where so it's like I don't know how you say this in English, no, but it's built by from a point of view. You need many points of view to really make this work. So it can consider all the different factors based on race, religion, and stuff like that. I like English people because they always say, "Oh, we don't talk about politics, military, religion." It's like, guys, you never get in problem. That's the cool thing. It's very polite. But when they talk about soccer or football, that's where the problems come. No, the thing is that you need to bring all the factors, and everybody needs to be represented when you generate AI. So I think that there's still a way to go, and I think how you put laws on top of this, the regulations and all these things. I don't think, for example, that it's fair that, well, it's funny because all this chat GPT and things learn from things that you put out there, and they start generating what they learn. But there's going to be a point that everything that we see out there is done by AI out there. Where's the thing that what's going to, if you're learning from me, from human beings, and there's a point that they just learn between them, between AIs, because everybody's building AI applications and stuff, and nothing is done by humans. What's the future of that? What's the next step and what we are going to see out there? The worst case is what people say is about domination and the whole thing, which is a fun thing to think, but it can be scary. But I think that the reality is different. It's like if everything is built by AI, there's no space for humans on. So how you control that part, how you make that trade-off, and how you balance between this kind of technology and society.
And I forgot the question. That was important question.
What you mentioned about the technology on how it impacts on the thing, right?
Yeah. One question. Yeah. Do any software need to have hardware? Is it important?
Oh yes, it's like the joke of serverless, no? It's like, oh, it's serverless, no? It runs in an infrastructure. The thing is that you get charged just by the thread of the moment that you're executing something. Everything is based on hardware. You will not get rid of the infrastructure. I don't see this coming like those connecting your mental thoughts between and creating a mesh networks of brains. That's very futurist, and I don't think we're going to reach that point, no? Maybe it's that what Elon Musk is trying to do.
And we as a technologist, we humans as technologists have improved the communication system between countries
Mhm.
using data centers, putting in different parts of the world, even in under the ocean, and also thinking about to put in the space. So when you are
Well,
going to work in other parts of the universe.
well, you are young for this, but in the old days we had this Nokia 33 device that you just can send SMS message, and then it came. I always say bigger screens, bigger distraction. When we just have those mobiles and you couldn't do many things. Now you have a lot of information that you are receiving in 24 hours that you need. The trick here is how you really summarize and pick the most important things of all the data points that you're receiving in your day to day. But looking on what's going to happen, you talk about Mars, now Jupiter, they're doing research. There's another company that I like a lot that is called Titan Labs. They're doing nano labs in space. So the thing here is how I remove any Earth factor, atmosphere and stuff, and how I can execute my code free of any factor that is related to Earth. And when you think in the future, once we get into Mars and stuff like that, how we're going to assemble devices there, how we're going to communicate via satellite to antennas that we have in Mars. Communication protocols will be different. How you assemble things in outer space will probably be different on the way you do it nowadays. So we will see that might be the third big revolution happening that you change everything, how the system communicate, how you build, how you assemble, and how you prepare society to live in outer countries. But for good or bad, I don't think I will see that coming soon.
So
But
one
maybe next generations will be able to see this happening.
one last question
Hmm.
is. Are we slow still as a technologist or as a human beings in thinking wise? we are still not able to find that technology or that logic with which we humans as having a technology with which we can travel with light speed.
Well, I think we don't have the technology yet to solve some of the main questions we have out there. And I'll say the example of the physical course on space. So university, I think was Oxford or Cambridge in UK. They demonstrate the theory of quarks that outer space you have physical cores, but we never found one of those. So when we try to go between one country and another, it's like the straight line, and it take a billion of light years to just reach to that point. But probably there's a curve that makes that path easier and shorter, but we haven't had the technology out there. Think, for example, and this is what I tell my kids. Our eye takes 60 frames per second, 40. And then if you increase how many frames per second if we could modify our eyes, you will start seeing things that you never saw, because that's the perception. So today we understand the world based on what we have. If we are able to improve and modify, we will start finding new things. With this new Webb telescope, you see the same pictures it took from Hubble and other telescopes in the 20 years ago and stuff like that. And the resolution is amazing. Now they're discovering that there are more stars, galaxies, and stuff that what they thought at the beginning. So I guess that's part of the evolution cycle.
And as a technologist, as a person who is into Amazon Web Services, one of the biggest and the largest company in the world, what is your observation about my work and also your experience in this conversation?
Well, it's nice to get people like you creating these podcasts and channels to expose what other people is thinking. I wouldn't tie this to a specific company because most of the topics are worldwide and not related to something specific. But I really enjoy having guys like you that are showing or are rising stars, uh, pushing things to get people connected and knowing each other and getting in touch. I think that work it's really, really good.
I connected with more than 100 country people,
Hmm.
have communicated, tried to put their life experiences or asked some questions from their
Uh-huh.
experiences, tried to know how they experience, how they solve problems, not only from technology, from hospitality, from police
Oh, yes.
department, they can be authors, they can be filmmakers, from people from NASA also came, also people who worked with Bill Gates and Steve Jobs came to my show. And
Uh-huh.
me talking with experts like this, asking questions, getting answers, how this experience is going to helpful for me if I come and work in IT in coming days.
Oh, I guess it would be helpful. To be honest, people doesn't learn in someone else's head. So I can tell you my experience and my failures and where you can go or not, but till you don't experience this yourself, I would say you need to have hands-on. If you get the opportunity of, oh, I want to learn, in my case, it was infrastructure and I got the opportunity to learn Cisco, for example, virtually, just remotely connect to your terminal and do things, or physically. Go to a site, you have the rack, you place. I chose going physically. Uh, People retains better and learns better when they touch and they have first-hand experience on building things there, rather than, oh, I heard from someone else that using this library is the way to go. Yeah, but you need to use it, test it, you will find problems, you will need to debug, you will need to put things in production. So all the information you get is awesome, and I guess helps you to build that picture of how the world works and where you want to be. But now you need to build your own path, and you need to create of your own experience of working in large projects and and just building your own career. Huh? But I find
Thank
it
you.
amazing. Yeah, it's really cool.
Thank you very much. It means a lot to me, your observation and your explanation. Definitely, it helps me a lot. And can I put
No.
this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Yeah, I hope nobody kills me because of all what we talk, because there are many topics related to life, science, futurist things, and things like that. Yeah, but feel free. Huh?
And also, can I put this audio and video clip on my podcast website,
Mm-hmm.
internet, social media, everywhere with your permission?
Sure, but if someone wants to complain, please complain to Sai directly. And you are the point of contact, and then you come back and say, gee, I have all these complaints, and we will work on those. Huh?
Sure. There is nothing such thing that we are expecting anything or any sensibilities of anybody from any part of the world. Just try to put the observation. That's it.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Maybe some of our words, a single word means different in different countries. So I
Yeah.
hope nobody feels uh, that we did anything wrong. That it's just a conversation between two peers about life and technology, not
Correct.
specific to something, but yes, feel free. Huh?
And do you create content or do you share anything that from which my followers or my audience can learn from you?
Oh yeah, I create content. It's been a few months since I didn't update my blog post. You will find it iasgeek.com. It's more mainly about infrastructure. We play with ChatGPT and doing some stuff. I need to take it back. But now I find that I've been always doing things in English, and I find that there's a necessity on the Latam and Spanish communities to have more content in Spanish. I'm not sure if in India you get more things in Hindi than in English, but it's like uh, I think we need to do more to help communities to grow. So you might see things in my blog starting now in Spanish, but sometimes in English. So don't complain, please. Don't blame me. Just trying to do the
Uh,
best.
I'll share your link. People who finds interesting and who wants to learn from you, definitely they'll
Hmm.
get education from you.
Cool. It was a pleasure speaking to you, Sai.
It's an honor for me, you being in technical field and technology industry for 20 plus years, talking with you, and you allowed me to ask some questions and
Hmm.
get some answers, and how you have experience and how you bravely you are able to solve problems, and also it's shown the ability that you have to solve any problem. This video not only helps technology people, also the non-technical followers that I have, definitely they'll find a lot of points that will help them in going forward in their life.
Yeah. So stay humble, stay hungry.
Sure, definitely. Thank you again for your
Cool.
valuable time.
Welcome. Speak to you soon. Ciao.
Bye. Bye.